Yes, welcome back to another preview here on the Fulhamish YouTube channel. Newcastle versus Fulham on Saturday. Fulham making the long trip to the northeast. There'll be some brave fans heading up there just a few days before Christmas. And after what we witnessed on Saturday against West Ham, even braver than normal. Here to talk all things Geordies, I've got Pete Donaldson from the Football Ramble. Pete, it's so good to have you on Fulhamish. What a pleasure.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you poor Fulham fans had to go all the way, or will have to go up all the way to Newcastle. Imagine how the Newcastle fans feel every week. Their second closest, I think, was Huddersfield. Disgusting. They've got to go all over the country.
You all live in London, though.
Yeah, I live in London, so I could go to the away match if I want. But if I've got to go and watch the Newcastle match, I've got to travel for like 3.5 hours. So there we go.
At least there's a good city at the end of it, maybe unlike some of your near rivals.
Yeah, Huddersfield. I've never been to Huddersfield before, and I don't think I'll be going anytime soon. So there we go.
I went in October, and actually, nice town, but awful result, which very much ruined the day. Right, Pete, let's talk all things Newcastle. It's been a bit of an upturn in form. You had a good November, couple of dodgy results, but you picked up the win on Saturday against Huddersfield. How have Newcastle fans rated the first half of the season? It's been pretty tough watching for most of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was pretending that his club is for sale. It seems to happen every single transfer window, right before the transfer window, right before the season tickets get sold. Mike Ashley announces that his club is up for sale. It never happens. I'm not holding out hope for this transfer window. It just seems to be a trick to allow him to, put his foot off the gas when it comes to actually acquiring footballers in the windows. It happens every time. Rafa Benitez will probably be gone by the summer. So I think it's the light before the dark, if you know what I mean. It's the time of the season where I think we're sort of all hoping for some new recruits in January, but I just don't think it's going to happen because Mike Ashley will dangle that stupid little carrot about Newcastle getting taken over, which will never happen. Let's make that very clear.
No, and in the circumstances, though, Rafa Benitez continues to just work miracles. He's got a squad that's been underinvested, but he's keeping you safe from relegation danger at the moment. It was a bad start to the season, we all know about that, but those 4 wins that you've picked up in pretty quick succession have really helped you to kind of see off relegation danger for now, but you're definitely still in the mire.
Yeah, I certainly see the Fulham match as being an opportunity to possibly pull away from that group, because you've got like Manchester United, we got Liverpool, we got Chelsea before the middle of January. So and I think there's only Watford in between that. So it's kind of I think it's going to be an important match this Saturday. I think Rafa Benitez getting the manager of the month for last month was quite important, because I think more than the results where we sort of won on the road, I think the draw against Everton was really important, sort of rotating fouls in the last 10 minutes and stuff. They showed some real steel in that match. Looking towards the next match, looking towards this Saturday, I don't know, man. I think the way Fulham played against West Ham, I'm sure you've got your own opinions on how that happened, but I think the pace will be the thing that I think undoes you. And I think Atsu, Rafa Benitez seems to be a fan of Atsu. His end product is dreadful, but he can certainly outrun players like Adoy, I think, and who obviously had a lot of trouble at the weekend. And I think a situation like DeAndre Yedlin going back into the side as well. Counter-attacks seem to work against Fulham at the moment, and they don't seem to offer quite so much up top. I know they had a lot of shots on target last week against West Ham. I think the problem with Mitro, and I think the reason why Rafa bombed him out, was Newcastle are a defensive team. They're a counter-attacking team, and if you have a team that plays deep, Mitro does all of his best work in the 18-yard box, and if he's not in the box, he can't score, for my money.
Let's come on to your favourite subject. I feel like, Pete, if you ever went on Mastermind, there's probably 2 things that would be your specialist subject. One might be some sort of Japanese animation. The other would probably be Alexander Mitrovic. This week he was actually named the Serbian Footballer of the Year. He's done amazing things for us. I think he's the only reason why we're even still in touch, have been his goals for us. Newcastle fans were split. You were very much in the I love Mitro camp. What is it about Mitrovic that you've just got such a fondness for?
I think he reminds everyone of a lost age of the number 9. He reminds me of Alan Shearer, the way he would hustle and bustle and just, absolutely let fly. With that, he's got that kind of his conversion rate is a little bit more Andy Cole than Alan Shearer. He takes a few shots before he can get going. I've seen him hit corner flags before, but he seemed to get the Newcastle United supporters. He was this kind of like trouble, like he would just cause trouble. He would be just as they would call up north, like a raggy bastard. He would just really take everyone down, and he would you'd know he was on the field for better or worse. But that's the thing, that Rafa just doesn't play the sort of football that I think he demands. He's that kind of like Costa kind of character who likes the hustle, who likes the bustle, and he likes the ball in the box. But you can't guarantee that when you haven't got quite so much quality when it comes to going forward and creating chances.
Let's kind of talk about the spine of Newcastle's team and really what makes Newcastle tick on a good day. Dubravka all the way from the back up to Rondon up front. You've got players like Lascelles as well, who love a bit of a battle at centre back. What is it that who are the Newcastle players that, if they're performing, make this team tick? Who are integral to Newcastle having a good day at the office?
I've said it before, I've said it again. Modiami, you can tell from the first time he touches the football whether you're going to have good performance from him. He's actually in quite an interesting position, Modiami, because I think he has to play like 10 more games this season and he automatically gets offered a new contract. I think he's 31, 32 now. He wants that new contract, so I think he's going to be producing as good a football as he can manage. But you're looking at players like John Joe Shelby. I don't think Rafa's a big fan of him at the moment. I think we're kind of concentrating on our defence and our delivering out from the back. I really like Martin Dubravka. I think he's not only an excellent shot stopper, he starts and moves quite quickly as well, and that's the kind of keeper you have to be in 2018 in the Premier League.
Yeah, 100%. And let's talk about Rondon up front. Now, when you signed him and got rid of Mitrovic, I was thinking, what have Newcastle done there? Because I thought he was pretty terrible for West Brom, apart from the odd match. But Benitez seems to have found the best in him. And some of the goals he's scoring for you, that beautiful header against Bournemouth and the goal at the weekend, whilst it was beautiful build-up play up to that, Rondon really got himself into a great position. And it was a good one-on-one, but he still had to have the composure to finish it late on in the game. He's been a revelation. I've been really impressed with him. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, he arrived incredibly injured, and he just didn't quite have the mobility that you kind of expect from him a little bit. There's no reason why we should have to choose between Rondon and farming out another player to West Brom in exchange. We should be able to keep both of those players in the Premier League. That seems like basic for me. But we've got Rondon. I compare Mitrovic to Alan Shearer. I compare Rondon to Les Ferdinand a little bit. If he has a chance, he'll invariably convert it, and I think he's enjoyable to watch because he works really, really hard. But again, it's all about service, and it's all about him, getting the chances. But if he gets a snapshot, if he gets a sniff a goal, he'll invariably and he has invariably put it away. But it is all about mobility. It is all about fitness. It is all about timing for him. And I'm enjoying his physicality. I think he's a great player. But then, should we be having to rely on a loanee? I think our combined sort of forward line, including players like Perez, and Perez was like £1 million, like Hosselu 5 million. Like, we're kind of running on empty. We're running on gas, really, and it's all down to Rafa Benitez's skill and guile when it comes to setting up a team defensively that we've been able to stay clear of the mire. There are some terrible teams in the Premier League. I wouldn't even count Fulham as one of those. I think you'll probably get it sorted out sooner rather than later. It's just at the moment, Cardiff are starting to pick up points inexplicably because I think they're bloody awful, and I think they're just thuggish at times. And Cardiff fans won't thank me for saying that. But yeah, it's an interesting mire down the bottom. But I think Newcastle, with a win this weekend, could find themselves climbing out of it. You don't know what state Man United are going to be in when we meet them. Liverpool will probably hammer us.
Yes,
I think Liverpool will hammer most teams on their day.
I mean, obviously, you're a Newcastle United supremo, but the day job is doing stuff for the Football Ramble, and you talk about all the games in the Premier League and beyond. So what have you made of Fulham this season? I know that Marcus has a bit of a soft spot on the podcast for Fulham, so you do often tend to talk about them, I feel like, a bit more than necessarily you should, which obviously I love. But what have you made of us this season? It's been a bit of a shock to us Fulham fans that we've not adapted to the Premier League as badly as we have. So what have you made of it as a bit of an outsider?
Yeah, I think when they came up, I thought everybody gave Fulham, out of the three that came up, I think everyone gave Fulham more of a fighting chance than any of the others, just simply because they played some really, really nice football in the Championship. But I don't know what it is. I don't know. I mean, it's clearly a problem with the defence, but you just seem to have enough up top to see you through. And there were times in the first few weeks of the season you thought, Fulham could, easily break into to mid-table. And I think everybody liked your manager as well. I think that's kind of one of the things. And he was, one of the major reasons why, you managed to land Mitrovic. He was signed on Snapchat, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
There's very few kind of players that have been signed on Snapchat. So, I think everyone was kind of rooting for Fulham. I think the press at large kind of root for Fulham. And I think when it was between them and was it Villa coming up or Birmingham? I can't remember. But either way, I think everyone was sort of rooting for Fulham to come up rather than the Midlands team, because I think a lot of the London-based journalists would rather travel to Fulham because it's a really easy and nice ground to sort of be at, rather than the ones in the Midlands. But yeah, I'm glad Villa are up. I hate Villa, so.
Makes two of us after that playoff final, certainly. So there will be 1,000 or so hardy Fulham fans travelling all the way to Newcastle.
3 hours on a train, boo-hoo.
I went up to St James's Park once a few seasons ago. I saw a glorious 0-0 draw up there. What's the best thing about a trip to St James's Park? What would you recommend for Fulham fans to do if it's their first trip up there and they've got a few hours to kill in the city beforehand?
Oh, mate, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like that's what's so great about Newcastle having only one team in their city. You sort of go through that. Is it Pai Fang? What's the basically Chinatown's right next to St James's Park, and as you walk through that arch and you just sort of see St James's Park, it's so rare to have in 2018 a football pitch, a massive stadium that kind of dominates the skyline. Fulham's the same, but it's kind of tucked away in quite a residential area, and it's not quite as big a monstrosity as St James's Park. But yeah, I mean, if you're staying over, get yourself a cheap hotel room or a hostel or something, and do the big market. It's worth doing. It's actually probably easier to get from where I'm going to be in Hartlepool to Newcastle, because there are a lot of rail strikes on the local lines up to Newcastle, than it is to get from London to Newcastle. So enjoy the trip.
I remember after my trip to St James's Park, my dad and I went into very much a home fans only pub, and I was dressed in full Fulham gear, and the pub kind of was like, and then they were like, "Oh no, you're not a Sunderland fan, you're fine." And then they let us in, and
they're very friendly. No one really cares. There's very little nonsense going on. There's not really any firms. Nobody really fights that much, unless you're a horse. And you get in the face, and it's hobby day. So
it's a dangerous place to be. All right, how do you see the game going, and can you give us a prediction?
I can see Newcastle getting a little bit of joy, depending on if Ronan's fit, and depending on if Atsu and some of our quicker players can sort of beat your defenders. All ends up. So I reckon a 2-0, to be honest. 2-0 Newcastle. I'm sorry to sort of say that, because I do like Fulham. I do have a soft spot for Fulham, but I'm hoping that this is the result that sort of helps us pull away from the pack behind us.
Well, I really hope that you're not right, but actually, given some of our recent form, Pete, I'm expecting nothing else. I think the lads on the podcast were joking that it's definitely going to be 1-0 with Diame scoring in the 72nd minute, and it's written in the stars. So hopefully Fulham can prove both of us wrong on Saturday.
Well, you only conceded 2 goals against West Ham, and we conceded 3. So what are you going to do?
Oh, well, there we go. Maybe the odds are in our favour. If you don't listen to the Football Ramble already, it feels weird that I'm advertising the Football Ramble, but if you don't listen already, it's an amazing show. Marcus, Pete, Luke and Jim every week, twice a week, giving their thoughts on football. They also do On the Continent as well if you're into European football, like some of the lads from our podcast. So make sure you check out those guys. They're absolutely brilliant. Pete, thank you for chatting to Fulhamish.
Yeah, thanks, Sammy. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football.
Come on, Fulham.